Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be talking about The Name of the Wind by Patrick Rothfuss. The Name of the Wind was published in 2007, makes up the first part, or rather the first day of the Kingkiller Chronicle. This is a chunky book. The copy I borrowed from my buddy Jake was maybe just shy of 800 pages, so I'm surprised I finished it as quickly as I did. I think I burned through it in like a month and a half, maybe. There are a few things that I feel are important to know before you head into this book. As with most fantasy stories, this takes place on a created fictional continent called Temerant. This world coexists with a Fey realm in which fantastical creatures reside and may move between planes only when the moon is full. The prevailing faith of the mortal realm is reminiscent of medieval Christianity in that there's one god that most people believe in. In order for mortals to use magic, one has to study it scientifically at the institute known only as the University. The magic system is one of the best ever. It's right up there with allomancy and Furukami in Sanderson's Mistborn series. It has a stringent set of rules that are pretty easy to follow and understand, and we'll get to one of the disciplines later. The Waystone Inn is operated by a man named Cote and his assistant Bast. After saving a traveling chronicler, who for right now is only referred to as Chronicler, he reveals himself to be the legendary Kvothe. And Kvothe is awesome. He lets you know it too. Even the blurb on the back of the book talks about how cool Kvothe is. And look, I know it's pronounced like Quoth, as he says in the book, but it's easier for me to say Kvothe than it is to say Kvothe, alright? So, deal with it. This probably sounds cocky, and it would be if it wasn't all true. Kvothe is actually as cool and legendary as he says he is. And it's for good reason. Chronicler wishes to write Kvothe's story, and Kvothe says that he can, but it'll take 3 days to tell it. Hence why I called this book Day 1. As with any good story, Kvothe decides to begin at the beginning. He was a child born into a traveling troupe of bards known as the Edema Ruh. Kvothe is somewhat of a prodigy, expertly learning almost anything thrown at him, whether it's acting, singing, playing instruments, etc. During their travels, they meet an old arcanist by the name of Ebenthi, who I swear to God should just be called Abernathy because that's how I keep wanting to read his name. Kvothe asks Ebenthi to teach him magic, and after some trepidation, he agrees. The first discipline of magic, and probably the simplest one, is called sympathy. Sympathy creates a link between two physical objects almost like a voodoo doll. During his studies, he witnesses Ebenthi call upon the name of the wind to ward off suspicious townsfolk, like the great wizard Taborlin the Great, who once called upon the name of the wind to save him after escaping the Chandrian. All the while, Kvothe's father is collecting information on the Chandrian to use in a song about the hero Lanry. This digging proves to be fatal. After being sent on an errand one day in the woods, Kvothe returns to camp to find that his entire troop has been slaughtered, and the Chandrian are indeed real. And just as a side note, the Chandrian are a group of, I assume, Fey or demons. It's kind of left ambiguous. Before they can kill Kvothe, they're spooked away by some unseen force. Traumatized and isolated, Kvothe travels to the city of Tarbian and spends the next few years as a thief. While in Tarbian, Kvothe meets a storyteller named Scarpi. Inspired by the tales he tells, Kvothe decides that he will try to enter the university, a dream that he thought about during his training with Ebenthi. One of the stories Scarpi tells is one of Lanry, the hero Kvothe's father was writing a song about. Lanry, upon the death of his wife, turns to the dark side and destroys what he once was charged to protect. With this turn, he changes his name to Lord Haliax, the leader of the Chandrian. Before Kvothe can get more information, Scarpi is arrested by the church on charges of heresy, because of course they would do that. Eventually, he leaves Tarbian. Along the way to the university, he comes across a girl named Denna, who he immediately becomes enamored with. Kvothe and Denna bump into each other multiple times throughout the book, and it's always a very will they, won't they sort of situation. Kvothe is clearly in love with her, and she teases him about reciprocating the feeling, but they never stay together in a manner that I would call a solid relationship. And this is one major criticism I have of the book, is Kvothe's relationship with Denna and just Kvothe's general view on women. It makes sense that he would comment on their bodies since during his schooling he's a teenager, and while he's recounting the tale he's maybe in his mid-20s. But it's pretty prominent throughout, and it feels like every woman Kvothe meets is just insanely hot, which I kind of doubt. The main chunk of the novel concerns Kvothe's miraculous entrance into the university and his time spent there. He proves to be a great, if unruly, student. So great, in fact, he skips out on some classes because they're teaching him things that he already knows about thanks to his time spent with Abenthi. One of Kavath's goals here, aside from clawing his way out of poverty and homelessness, is to gain access to the archives to continue his research on the Chandrian. However, a rich asshole named Ambrose tricks him into taking a candle into the archives, breaking a very important rule about there being no open flames. This gets Kavath banned with no possibility of forgiveness. Thus starts a heated rivalry between the two. I do just want to take a moment here to praise Rothfuss's prose. The writing in this book is absolutely beautiful. People have called it lyrical and poetic, and that's not an exaggeration. This book solidified Rothfuss's name with the likes of Tolkien, Abercrombie, Sanderson, and Robert Jordan in the halls of excellent writers. If you're a new fantasy fan, or even a hardened veteran of the genre, I guarantee that you will fall in love with how eloquent Rothfuss's writing is. No word is wasted here. After proving his worth in several fields of magical study, Kavath takes his meager funds and buys a lute. There's a tavern in the neighboring town of Imre where, if you play well enough, you can gain a mark of excellence and play at the tavern for free for life to earn cash. Kavath does exactly that, earning himself room and board. At this tavern, he runs into Denna again, sparking his pining once more. Reports of blue fire, a sign of the Chandrian, reach Kavath's ears. Spurned by this news, he sets out to a rural farm town where an entire wedding party had been burned alive. Once he reaches the site, he finds that Denna was there and is still alive but badly injured. Together, they meet a swineherd who confirms that blue flames foreshadowed the death of the wedding party. During their search, they encounter a Dracus, and this is probably my favorite part of the book, simply because imagining a dragon-like creature who's high as balls on fantasy wizard drugs and acting like a cat on catnip is hilarious to me. Before the Dracus can destroy the farm town on a drug-fueled rampage, Kavath manages to slay it. The locals help him recover from his injuries, and when he sets out to the site of the wedding massacre once more, he finds that Denna has disappeared, as she often does. During this time, he discovers why the wedding party was slaughtered. The bride's father found an old pot that was painted to depict the Chandrian, and as we know by now, anyone who tries to dig up information on the Chandrian are sentenced to death. When Kavath returns to Imre, he finds that Ambrose has taken his lute and after some taunting, breaks it. This brings Kavath to his boiling point, and in his anger, he unintentionally calls upon the name of the wind and breaks Ambrose's arm. The university brings them both to trial and faces Kavath with expulsion. However, thanks to his outstanding performance as a wizard, the charges are reduced to just a few lashings. One of the teachers, Master Eladin, even promotes him in rank. Thus ends day one of the Kingkiller Chronicle. But it's not quite the end of the novel. A mysterious man enters the Waystone Inn, clearly possessed by something. After being struck by iron, the man dies. Everything settles down and Kavath gives Chronicler a room to stay in for the night. During the night, Bast breaks into Chronicler's room and claims that Chronicler coming to the Waystone Inn was all a part of his plan to make Kavath return to his heroic self, as he is now simply a man waiting to die. The Name of the Wind is a masterclass of fantasy storytelling. The world building is deep, intriguing, and doesn't stop. It's delivered as it's discovered. It's never simply just exposition as it is in other novels. As I mentioned earlier, the prose are elegant and never come off as too purple or pretentious. Nothing about this book is boring. Rothfuss takes you on a ride that you will not want to get off of. Aside from Kavath's general view of women and the way that women are written in this book aside, I can't sing this book's praises enough. If you haven't read it yet, you need to. Even if you don't like fantasy or don't read that often, there is something for you here. Pick it up when you get the chance and you will not regret it. Thank you guys so very much for watching the video. If you liked it, give it a thumbs up. If you want to see more videos like this one, please consider subscribing. More book reviews on the way, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.